Hello, my name is Margaret Adele, and welcome to another indie book review, coming at you from a new location, the cozy corner we are slowly building in our second bedroom. I plan on making this the warmest, most inviting place to hole up in for the entire winter. I have this lovely burnt orange monstrosity from the 70s. It rocks, it reclines, it's going to outlive me, and I love it. And it is in this lovely monstrosity that I read most of A Neighborly Seduction by Alex Pendragon. I found this off of Blue Sky when I was asking for recommendations for the 52 Book Club Challenge, and the author was like low-key hesitant to send it to me because he was like, well, it's a queer erotica and I didn't know if you were looking for something more mainstream. And I was like, hold up. We haven't been mutuals for very long, but like, you just need to know I am never looking for something mainstream, okay? I'm not against it. I'll wade in occasionally, but like, it's never my purpose. And so he sent the review request, and I began reading about our grad researcher Ezra moving into yet another new house. Only this time, the house next door is filled with a bunch of hot college guys that start inviting Ezra over. And he's like, hey, should I tell them I'm gay and find them all hot? Maybe not, but he's really not sure. And when he goes over to watch the game, it's really funny. It never specifies the game they're watching. It does take place at like the height of summer, so like you could guess baseball, but like it never actually even says the sport they're watching. But during the game, one of the guys, Corey, just takes it out. Starts jerking off in the living room, and all the other guys are like, he just does this, he's an exhibitionist, just ignore him, it's what we all do. But Ezra just can't stop thinking about it, and a couple other little things start happening, and he's like, is this a deeper invitation? Now it does get kind of hilarious the longer things go on, that there comes a point where Ezra's like hemming and hawing and hesitant, be like, well, I don't know, when there's like several guys blatantly throwing themselves at him, like openly, like they're not subtle at all, or as subtle as horned up 20-year-old college guys ever are, I guess. And there's a lot of steamy scenes in a variety of ways. I really liked the buildup of things where it doesn't jump into like the most fun stuff at first. It builds up longer over time, which is really what you want in erotica, that sense of progression. You don't want the funnest part first, because then what's the rest of the book going to be about? I do wish, though, that there had been a little bit more explanation up front with Ezra about just why he's so hesitant, because it is eventually explained because of a homophobic family member. But I think if it had been brought up earlier that that family member was such a negative effect on his life that he like can't even trust these very blatant overtures coming at him, it would also make it a little bit more of a hit when said family member shows up. There is homophobia on page. There is what is basically a hate crime, but perversely, that actually like adds depth to this story, that there is a deeper connection, a deeper sense of relationship between the two houses, Ezra and all of the guys, and just that deeper sense of care rather than just sex. This is definitely conscious non-monogamy. This is not necessarily a romance. Not to say that there couldn't be. There is hints that he at least has like some of the guys he feels closer to, but it's definitely not I need to find a boyfriend among these dudes. Nor is it fully like a why choose, what I call it. Now, I have often noticed that in MLM books, books written by actual queer men in the community do have a different style and tone than books written by members outside of the community. And I'm willing to bet that the books written by actual queer men probably ring a lot truer to what the actual experience of being a queer man is, because there are certain concepts that get talked about a lot and certain vibes and kinks that get brought up a lot that don't come up as much in MLM books written by those not living the actual lifestyle. And one of those is a high emphasis on fluids. And I used to joke with Travis Bedoin, who is another queer man writing MLM, that his books have so much emphasis on fluids. And I'm sorry, Travis, I think Alex got you beat. But like, I am just slowly coming to learn that's just a difference in taste thing between, you know, me as a queer woman and maybe a queer man sleeping with other men. A lot more emphasis on fluids. So there were some times where I was like, okay. But that's just not my kink to begin with. There is a little bit of talk about kink, but nothing like overt, nothing like overly BDSM-y. Nothing that I think, I'm trying to go back through, nothing that I think would like be possibly triggering. I don't think. There are trigger warnings at the beginning of the book. If you need them, they're there. But I don't recall anything being like, oh, this is a particularly intense sex scene that we got to be on the lookout for. Really, my only critique would be that I wanted just a little bit more depth to the characters and maybe slightly the world. There's technically, I guess, some scenes happen at Ezra's workplace, but you don't even find out exactly what he's studying. There's just vague references to spreadsheets and numbers and stuff. You don't find out what any of the guys next door are studying in college, and they are like all 20, so like they are at like the, you know, the actual upper level classes that would be directly towards their degree. So I wish there was a little bit more, just because that little bit of information can really help flesh out a character. Like, what are you studying? What do you want to get into? It's very easy juxtaposition with a character. That being said, they did still have like identifiable personalities. It wasn't just a bunch of faceless twinks, just, you know, standing up for their turn. But I just wish there'd been a little bit more. There is kind of a closed off, not plasticky, but definitely dreamlike feel to the story in that way, which I guess a lot of erotica is just straight up dreamlike, because it is complete fantasies, more or less. But the development of the relationships felt pretty realistic, I would say, looking back on it. Granted, he doesn't develop deep relationships with all of the college guys, just because there's 5 of them. It's a little too much for the runtime of the book, but there are standouts and there are differences in their personalities, so you can like get a gist of, okay, this is who Owen is, who Connor is, who Corey is, who Liam is, who Ben is. Like, there are differences in all of that. Particularly enjoyed the talk about the heat. The heat is its own character in this story, and it does have an effect on like the overall vibes of it, because it is definitely supposed to feel like a haze-filled summer dream type vibe. But also, I was reading this during our prolonged ultra humid heat wave, where you didn't want to leave the house after 9 a.m. Like, this is the first week in maybe month at this point where the highs are under 80 degrees Fahrenheit. And it's not quite as humid as it has been before. So reading this while going through our humid heat wave made it stand out all the more. But more or less, this is a very good example of that kind of classic guy next door erotica. I definitely think that you need to enjoy that actually queer men written MLM stories to like this. If you are dependent on the tropes used by people outside of the community, you may not like this one. It does have, you know, conscious non-monogamy and fluids and talk of all that. But more or less, it was also weirdly wholesome. I don't know how to explain the difference, but it just is. I don't know why. Well, in some cases I do know why. There actually are some like sweet moments, but like, wholesome is the way I would describe it, despite it being a fairly filthy erotica. So be on the lookout for this one if you're into some summer fun in the waning days of summer. And with nothing else to say, I hope you have a wonderful day and a marvelous tomorrow.